Hi everyone, welcome to another Lunch and Learn with Manchester Codes. My name is Alice Chancellor, I'm Head of Student Operations at Manchester Codes. Today I am joined by Kerry from Cognizant, and she doesn't have her camera on at the moment because of Wi-Fi issues, but she is here. We're going to have a great session learning all about sort of the junior developer roles that they have, and Kerry will go through some sort of tips and tricks as well, sort of the hiring process, and we'll also do a Q&A at the end as well, as always. So if you do have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat box during, and also just feel free to sort of ask them at the end as well. It's up to you, but I will hand over to you, Kerry.
Thanks, Alice. Hi, everyone.
No problem.
Probably worth just quickly introducing myself and my role at Cognizant. So I think sort of broadly across the 9 years, I've had quite a good scope across recruitment in general. So originally started off in the experienced hire space. I then veered off and did a bit of VP recruitment, so vice presidents, and -1, so that the level below vice president recruitment. And then got the opportunity to move across into the early career space, so focusing on graduate recruitment as well as some apprenticeship recruitment. Definitely hand on heart say that this is my niche, this is my preferred area of recruitment, just because it's, a lot more agile. There are a lot more opportunities out there for people like yourself just looking to get into the tech industry. So in terms of my time at Cognizant, I am actually taking a slightly different approach to the sort of early careers / entry route in terms of recruitment. So outside of your traditional graduate recruitment, my colleague Dan and I are looking for alternative routes into the tech space. So it may be that we've got opportunities for the likes of yourself, so those who are attending boot camps. It could potentially be that some of you are self-taught anyway, so upskilling, reskilling, returners, so people have taken some time out of their career looking to come back in, or indeed those who are looking for a career change. So, a big sort of spike in applications from those who, unfortunately throughout the COVID period, the peak COVID period, were out of work. But what they did was they used that as an opportunity to reskill and potentially look to move into the tech space. So out of what was a really horrible situation to be in, there are a lot of you out there who used it as an opportunity to, bite the bullet and look to reskill and follow a different passion. So that's just a little bit about me. From today's session, just going to give you a bit of an insight as to Cognizant and who we are. So across the different industries that we work, what do we provide to our clients? I'll give you a view of the type of roles that we typically recruit across. And then what I'll look to do is just probably give you some advice around our particular recruitment processes, what to look out for, and then just finish on some hints and tips. I really do appreciate how difficult it is to sort of reroute your career, do a boot camp, degree, etc., and find yourselves in that sort of early realm of looking for a career. It's a job in itself, isn't it? Looking for full-time work. So, yes, I'm coming into this conversation with my Cognizant hat on, but I am here as a recruiter. So any questions that you may have just in general for the industry and sort of hints and tips around CVs, etc., please do leverage your time with me today. Equally, I am on LinkedIn, so we can connect afterwards if you've got sort of more personal questions about your particular situation. So that's not a problem at all. And like Alice said, there will be an opportunity at the end for some Q&A. So that session's only going to be as interactive as you guys make it. So like I said, don't be shy. It's likely the question you're thinking of, there are going to be others on the call or indeed watching this back later who are thinking of the same questions. So do be confident and ask them. So hopefully, if my tech works.
It's working right now.
Is it working?
Yeah, we've gone to our next slide. Thanks, Kerry.
Okay, perfect. I'm the least technical person you will ever meet. So
other than me, trust me.
Perfect. And Alice, do speak up if I suddenly go quiet or I start jumping, and we'll try and sort it out.
Okay, cheers, Kerry. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so Cognizant, who are we? So many of you on this call will probably not have come across Cognizant before as a logo or brand, and justifiably so as well. We're not necessarily direct to consumer brand. We're not a company that you would buy a product from like Microsoft, perhaps, as a day-to-day consumer. We're certainly not on the high street, that's for sure. And we're not going to be trying to sell to individuals. But what we do is provide tech and business solutions and services. And in effect, our people actually, our people are our SMEs, so subject matter experts. So we do deploy them onto client projects to make their services, products, operations all work a lot better for them. So we do operate across several customers and industries. There's a slide coming up in a moment actually that I'll run through with you, which just gives you a bit of a view of the breadth of industries that we do work across. But, very high level, we provide tech and business solutions to our clients just to make their services a lot better. So the Cognizant agenda, we do, of course, have a purpose, a vision and values. Our purpose is to help businesses improve their services. Our purpose as well is just to try and get as much scope across the industry as we can. And actually, we do have a large presence in the tech consultancy space. I think in total, we're across 50 different countries. In the UK alone, actually, we've got a workforce of approximately 9 to 10,000. And I think on a global perspective, we're hitting 350, so 350,000. So of course, with that comes opportunities, across different industries, different projects, different roles, and actually maybe if you're lucky enough, different countries as well. Whether you do decide to apply to Cognizant now or in the future, there's quite a breadth of, scope for you guys, because ultimately at a very high level, it's our ambition to grow and provide services across the globe to as many clients as possible across different industries and sectors. It may be that you've got your eye on a particular sector, actually, in which case, there are roles out there that are industry and sector specific, but, don't pigeonhole yourself so early on in your career, because trust me, there is so much to learn. You may have a view of what you're passionate about right now, but I think as an employer, it's their responsibility to unlock those hidden passions that you didn't even know you had. So towards the bottom, there are our values. Most companies will have a particular set of values. For me personally, they're not just nice to haves. They are things that you will come across and experience, day to day if you were successful in an application with Cognizant. I think the one in particular that stands out to me is work as one, because that can be applied internally as well as externally. So, regardless of which role you end up applying to and, hopefully you're successful with, you won't be siloed to that particular type of work. Let's just say software development was your particular area that you wanted to move into. You will be working with consultants, you will be working with project managers, scrum managers, data engineers. We work collaboratively as a company. Yes, we do have sub departments within our organization, but we wouldn't be able to achieve what we are achieving if we were, pretty selfish and siloed in our approach. Clients don't care how you operate as a business, they just want a streamlined service. So by providing a streamlined service, that comes hand in hand with working collaboratively. I think from a recruitment perspective, looking at this from an external point of view as well, working as one, Cognizant and the work that Dan and I are doing in the junior lateral pillar, so trying to find different entry routes into tech, we are partnering with organisations such as, today, Alice, we're working together to provide you some, hopefully some value and support in your journeys with getting into the tech industry. So that's my particular favourite. What I would recommend doing is when you're looking at different employers, try and look at the lay terms and the applied values. Don't just take them at face value. Speak to the people who are working for those particular organisations, because they'll be able to provide the context. every company will put all the lovely fluffy stuff on their website, the stuff that you want to hear, but actually, it's key. So by attending events such as these, getting yourself on LinkedIn, just building up your network, go to the people. They will give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. So strategic alliances and partners. So in terms of what we do and how we do things, so I did mention earlier that you may not have come across our brand before, but here are some of our partners that we do work with and no doubt that you would have heard of. So up the top there, you can see our key strategic partners, the likes of IBM, Google, Oracle. If you haven't heard of them and you're wanting to move into the tech space, you've probably been living under a rock. So they are our key strategic partners, but at the bottom, so from the left to the right, you'll see some smaller, maybe not as well-known companies that we partner with. The purpose of doing this really is that we want to leverage the services of other companies so that we can provide bespoke solutions to our partners and our clients. Nothing that we provide to our clients is off the shelf, vanilla solutions. Okay, whether that be a CRM, so customer relationship management tool, or whether it's moving their information from one place to another. Our clients could go direct to these brands to get a vanilla solution, but what we do is work with them to understand what they need versus what they want, because those two potentially are going to be very, very different. And essentially that's why people come to Cognizant, for the expert advice. Okay. And it could be that we build a solution. We could build a solution, but then there may also be a case for us to then maintain that solution just in case our particular clients don't have that internal capability. Okay. So lots of different companies that we work with just in order to, provide the best solution that we can. And what we do, understandably so, is just break those partnerships down. Okay, so going back to the point about breadth and having a diverse career, whether that's roles, industries, sectors, etc. We are working for some of the largest companies in their respective sectors.Hether that be healthcare, banking, retail, energy, all of those key industries that make up day-to-day life when you actually think about it. We may support the applications that you use on your phone, or maybe the software on your iPad, or just generally how you navigate across websites. It could be that you go on holiday and you're staying at a large hotel chain. It could be that we actually help to operate their internal IT systems. So, at face value, you may not be aware of what Cognizant do, but actually in your day-to-day interactions, undoubtedly, you would indirectly be coming across Cognizant, and there are lots of cool things that we do to impact people sort of day in and day out. What's funny, if you think about it, is we're not just providing the solution, but in a weird way, we are the consumers of those solutions. So this just gives you, it's quite a busy slide, but it just gives you a few key bullet points of what we're achieving across the industry. So like I say, you may have a particular interest in a particular industry, but do be open. I've met a lot of people who work in the hospitality sector, actually, who decided to use COVID as an opportunity to reskill. So understandably, they gravitate towards potential hospitality projects within Cognizant, but we recruit to demand. Okay, so you will be placed where the project work is, but that's not to say that you'll be stuck in a particular sector or industry for your time at Cognizant. So it's just being open to opportunities, which ultimately will just bolster your experience with how things are done across different clients and different sectors. And then I think the last slide, just sort of around what Cognizant do and who we are, so it's worth talking about diversity inclusion because it is high on everyone's agenda. Cognizant, no doubt yourselves, we may have some carers on this particular call. Whatever you're passionate about, there is an internal network at Cognizant that just helps us to, support different groups that either identify or who are indeed allies as part of these different support networks. it does help us to improve the internal environment that we work with. Happy workforce, the output of and the quality of their work is going to be a lot better too. And at the end of the day, people are at the heart of everything that we do. I mentioned in the previous slide that, our people are our assets. So we need to look after them and just make sure that they've got the support that they need outside of their working environment too. What you'll find as well is that when we bid for work, so RFPs, so right for proposal, so when we're bidding for particular pieces of work, what we're finding is that either our current clients or potential new clients, they do weave diversity and inclusion into their overall requirements, whether it's just a general interest of what we're doing to help on that front, or in fact, they weave into their RFP or are hoping to, that we can help them with their D&I initiatives. So we collaborate with our clients on such topics with a view that ultimately there is going to be a societal impact and need for change, which I think too just feeds into why, partly I'm on this call today, because I'm looking to help people enter into tech outside of those traditional graduate routes, which for some can be quite limiting. Why should we be penalising people for decisions they made some time ago, decisions not to go to university? Okay. So opportunities in tech. There are lots and lots of opportunities in tech. I know at times for you it may feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall. You may feel like your job search is stalling, but again, it goes back to my point made earlier. Just be quite open to where you're looking for roles. Only 3 to 5% of tech jobs are in tech companies. Okay, so some of you may be going out to market thinking, right, I'll Google all the top tech companies out there, and that will give me a view on the type of work that's available. Rather than doing that, maybe take a two-prong approach. So not only research companies, but typing in perhaps a particular role type that you're interested in, type that into Google, because that will throw out opportunities your way, whilst identifying companies that maybe you haven't even heard of, in which case you can make a note of those companies and start doing your research on what other opportunities are available. So, don't always go for the obvious pick. Do look at those smaller companies as well. Okay. I think it's really important to identify where you are currently, what is your current entry point. So do have a think about what you're currently interested in. There may be a particular type of technology that you've learned on your boot camp that you want to explore further, in which case, great, go and identify different roles and different companies that support those entry routes. But if you keep seeing something popping up in job descriptions, it may be, for example, Spring Boot, alongside Java, a lot of companies are looking at Spring Boot. If you don't have that skill in your arsenal, then, look at potential free online websites like Code Academy to start, looking at potentially upskilling yourself in areas that you're not quite confident in, but you keep seeing on different job descriptions, for example. Okay, so what you're doing at the moment, obviously going through this boot camp, is really, really valuable. No doubt most of you have got portfolios or GitHubs, etc. If you don't, I really would recommend just creating one sooner rather than later, because you talk a good talk, but can you walk the walk? And effectively, that's what your GitHub and portfolios are going to be able to demonstrate. Okay, so that's really one big bit of advice that I would give you. And as for recruitment processes, of course, goes without saying, they do differ across different companies, different sectors, etc. So go into it with an open mind that some may want you to do a technical test, others may want you to just do a virtual interview over Microsoft Teams, for example. So just, don't go into these processes blinkered. If it's not apparent what the process is, then by all means ask the recruiter and they will be happy to share that with you. It's important to note as well that recruiters and hiring managers alike are not out there to try and trip you up. They all want you to succeed. So where they can, they will try and give you as much help as they can. Okay. Oh, going a bit too fast. A busy slide, I must apologise, but I suppose it's reflective of the industry. If I can get away with that one, not too sure. What you'll find is across the tech industry, I want to dispel the fact that if you want to get into the tech industry, not every role is technical. So at Cognizant, we do try and split our roles into different subsections. So of course, technical, they may be more business orientated, and indeed we may sort of outsource our services for particular clients. Okay, so software testing, software development tend to be quite key roles for us. So it could be that you're coming in and you're working on UX, UI. It could be that we get you to focus on development, so using Java or Spring Boot. So you could be part of a project that looks to help to support clients, whether that's a mobile application, website, etc. You'll be likely working with, you will be working with other role types as well, which I suppose is good for your development because you can get a flavour of, what every single responsibility is within a particular project, okay? Because there are many, many cogs that make a successful project, okay? So software development is probably a key technical role that we offer at Cognizant. If I move over to the business operations side of things, this is where there's more of a blended approach. It could be that it's more business orientated. So you could come in as a project manager, so project support analyst. It could be that you come in as a customer relationship management analyst. So you're just being the go-to between our developers, but also the clients and what we're delivering. So there's a bit of a mix and match in terms of what we offer, and certainly that is reflective of the market as well. I think it's really important just to remember that we can provide solutions to our clients, the sexiest technology out there, all the bells and whistles. But actually, if they don't know how to fully utilize that technology, it would be like buying a Ferrari and not having a driving license. Okay. So that's where maybe consulting is more for you. You've got that technical understanding, but actually you want to help people to utilize the technology that we are implementing. So change management, for example, being a change management consultant. Okay, we've got this technology. How do we influence their users? So whether they're customers or actual their workforce, how can we help them to leverage that technology? So it could be through training, for example. Okay. If you haven't done already, I'd take a snapshot of this slide. Remember what I said earlier about typing in role types rather than focusing on organizations? That may just help you to scope out what you're looking for and who you're looking for, in terms of employer. So we've got a bit of a Q&A now. So that is the end of the slide deck. So what I may actually do is stop sharing, give my camera a whirl, and start giving you some hints and tips.
Kerry, that was so good. Thank you so much. I hope that was one of the best lunch and learns we've ever had. You were very informative. That was really, really good.
I mean, there's always a fine line, isn't there, about going too deep into how we do things. But I suppose the purpose of these type of calls is certainly just to give your graduates or your bootcamp graduates a flavour of what's out there, what to look for, the type of work, the type of roles, so that they're not siloing themselves or limiting themselves with what they're looking for. Because it is difficult looking for roles, especially if you haven't come into this space from, perhaps a computer science degree, which, by the way, tend to be quite out of date with how quickly the industry is moving. So hence doing boot camps, they can be designed very quickly to accommodate what's actually going on in the market. The difficulty is, and it's a slow burner, but it is getting there. Over the last sort of 3 odd years, boot camps are becoming a lot more palatable to the likes of project teams and hiring teams, because we can't all keep fishing in the same pool of candidates.
No,
it's impractical. So just thinking outside of the box is certainly something that organizations need to do. And that's something that at Cognizant, we are trying to educate our hiring managers to say, look, just, stop looking for unicorns or stop looking for the traditional sort of graduates. Let's think out of
Mhm.
the box. And actually, a
Definitely.
lot of people who do boot camps have got previous work experience and they have a lot of transferable skills. Okay.
Agreed, agreed. And I think what you said is right. It's such a big transition going from, say, you use, for example, hospitality, interviewing as somebody going into a hospitality role compared to a technical role. I think that's something that the boot campers and most career changers find really difficult because they can't see, I guess, the similarities in them. And there are so many. And most people who've had a previous career sort of have those soft skills as well that they can really excel when it comes to interviewing. But no, that was super insightful, like Aisha said. But I don't know if anyone has any questions specifically for Kerry. I'm sure you can be quite open with the questions because that was a very nice open session. I guess just from my point of view, and just a little bit more about your sort of hiring process, and just if you could just sort of talk through how you hire, and I guess that can give an insight into, I guess, how some other organisations may do it.
We are quite fluid. So, I mean, we've got a graduate route into Cognizant. We've recently just sort of created that. Unfortunately, they've filled their Q3 cohort. They're actually starting next week, which is exciting. So, they have a very different recruitment process to Dan and I. But if I just sort of focus in on what Dan and I are looking for, and that's looking for boot camp completers, it really does depend on the role, and this is the beauty of what we provide because we can be flexible with the hiring teams, so we're not set with rigid intakes, a rigid process. We do try and keep it fairly consistent across role types, but we do have flexibility. So my full stack developer roles, for example, I typically tend to go live on LinkedIn, communicate with boot campers like yourself to see, who's still looking for roles. So in terms of where I find my candidates, it's from across different platforms.
Yeah.
Uh, but let's just say I got a selection of CVs from yourself, Alice, or in fact, I went on LinkedIn to look for profiles. For my full stack developer roles, there tends to be a bit of an introductory email from myself just to give scope across what that process looks like. But if you pass the initial screening, we would then look to get you to complete a technical test, which we use a platform called iMocker to do. Usually take about 40 minutes. You can do it in your own time, but we usually give you a deadline as to when to complete that by. That gets fired across to the business. So the business review those test results, not me, because I'm not technical. It wouldn't be fair on the candidates for little old Kerry to be sat there working
No, I'd be
through
the
it.
same.
Yeah.
I'd just be staring at like,
Yeah, it's all gobbledygook to me.
yeah, me too.
I go direct to the hiring team. They obviously know what they're looking for. They review the test results. If successful, we then look to get our candidates in for an interview. So at the moment, like a lot of companies, we are using Microsoft Teams to conduct the interviews. They would be video like this, so it's not pre-recorded. So you would have an interview with a member of the relevant team. That tends to be the final stage, but occasionally, depending on the project, the clients also like to have maybe a 30-minute chat with our candidates. So, that's just one example. For my UX UI roles that I've recently completed, so there was an HR interview conducted with myself, just to understand, do these candidates meet our requirements and do we meet theirs? Okay, because let's not forget, bit of advice here, it's always a two-way process. Undoubtedly, you will be going into interviews feeling incredibly nervous, and that's a good thing because it means you care. But never forget that companies need to impress you just as much as you need to impress us.
Yeah,
So,
great.
do feel empowered when you're going into your interviews and use it as an opportunity, because at the end of the day, you may have an interview one day and get to the end of it and think, actually, that's not quite for me. The role isn't quite for me, or the organization isn't quite right for me. And that's great. because it means we've done our jobs. That's the whole purpose of having an interview. Okay. But yeah, sorry, went off on a bit of a tangent there. For my UX UI
A good
role,
tangent. It was a good tangent.
we have an HR interview with myself, just ascertain whether or not this is the right opportunity, and then if it is, we've had an hour's interview with my stakeholders. So they've reviewed or asked some questions, then reviewed maybe some portfolios, allowed the candidates to talk through their process and how they sort of tackled a particular project. And then the practice lead, complimentary, I think, just always likes to have a chat with any potential candidates coming into his team, because it is quite a small, intimate team as well. So, it's always a good sign getting to that stage. And then it is the case of, cherry picking to see, who the successful candidates are. I have run an assessment centre before with Cognizant. That was for the consulting stream. So, that was a simple case of HR interview, and then we selected 8 candidates to spend the day with us. We went through a group activity and a one-to-one interview. So, like I say, it can vary, but recruiters should always be upfront about what the process is, because that's how candidates are going to prepare.
Definitely. Cool. So I've had a couple of questions through. I am going to read them all. I'll read them all, but I'm just going to read them out in sort of relevance to where we are. So Will has just asked, are there any examples of questions that get asked in the assessment, just to give an idea of what they need to know if they don't already? So I guess
no worries. It depends on the interview itself, but typically across our roles, what we find is that the business will ask a mixture of questions. So it's normally broken down. Okay, I'll say 3 parts instead of the 2 that I was going to say. Always be prepared for the obvious questions, okay? So why do you want to join Cognizant? Why this particular role? Regardless of which company you apply for, just always, have the answers to those questions up your sleeve, okay? At Cognizant, we don't want you to learn the website inside and out, but we certainly want you to understand what we do. And there may well be a couple of client examples on the website that you've seen, in which case, just reference that and reference what has excited you about those particular projects.
Yeah.
It could be as well that you look into the softer side of what we represent as a company. So the slides I presented earlier reference values, it referenced diversity and inclusion. So, the role may be perfect for you, but you also need to ascertain whether or not the company's right for you. So, just remember those 2 obvious questions. The role type, that should be a relatively easy answer for you to give. Okay, especially if you've made the good match between your CV, your passions versus what the job description is asking for. I think always be prepared for examples. Every single one of you on this call or who's watching it back will say, I'm a great communicator. I'm a great leader. Okay, what's going to set you apart from the person, on the other side of this virtual wall is providing actual examples of when you can demonstrate particular skills. So I suppose that leads me into, the part 2 and the part 3 of this question. Always be prepared to demonstrate the softer side of your skill set. We don't just want to recruit people who are technical. A lot of our graduates and junior laterals will be put in front of clients, whether that's on site or virtually. So when I reference softer skills, Will, I'm talking about communication, maybe looking at how agile you are, personal growth. What was the last goal that you set yourself and how did you achieve it? The softer skills are just as important as the technical skills. The technical skills vary depending on the role type. For my full stack developer roles, I know that they will reference some of the technologies on the job description. Okay, so it could be Java, it could be OOPs, it could be .NET, for example. I don't know how they structure those questions. If I did, I wouldn't tell you anyway, because that's giving it away. But I suppose one additional point that I would put to that when it comes to technical questions is over video call, just be prepared to use the chat function. It may be that the assessor sends you a bit of code to decipher or spot an error with. It could be that they get you to do a share screen. So if you do have the portfolio and the GitHub I spoke about, they may want you to talk through some of your projects. It may be that the interviewers question you, but not because what you've said or what you've done is the wrong approach. They just want to know the rationale behind it. Okay, so it's effective storytelling, basically. So that was a pretty long-winded way of answering your question. So just think,
it's good. It's detailed.
The softer skills and the technical skills. Okay.
Great, thank you, Kerry.
Oh, and sorry, Alice, one more thing to add to that
okay.
is if you're applying to a role for a particular company, get yourself on LinkedIn and look up those who are in similar positions.
Yeah.
Whether it's fellow graduates, some of you may have a computer science degree. You're just doing this boot camp as a bit of a top up, in which case, don't rule out those graduate schemes that you see in the market, but certainly do go on social media and connect with graduates, because they likely would have gone through the same, if not maybe slightly different process. So, get some hints and tips from them too.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing and can be easily forgotten, is how helpful the tech industry actually is. And people want to help you. Like if you see somebody that's in a position that you're applying for, pop them a message, even if it's just that they'll then tell the hiring manager that they've reached out to you, which I think looks just as good, really, and shows how eager and keen you are. Okay, so a message from Aisha. Do you hire boot campers for tech consulting roles too? I haven't come across many opportunities in this space if you aren't a graduate.
I mean, at Cognizant, we do. We don't have any consultancy roles open at the moment, but the business are open to boot campers. So again, I understand your struggles. There are a few roles out there, but this is where, like I said earlier, just broaden out your scope. Look at companies, look at role types. It's likely that Manchester Codes will have connections within particular businesses, in which case they can at least inquire to see, what have you got at the moment and what are you forecasting that's going to come through. Unfortunately, unlike your traditional graduate route, you'll notice on websites that they have set intakes and set recruitment campaigns throughout the year. It's very structured in terms of what they're looking for. Whereas with junior lateral hiring, it's very reactive to what the business needs there and then. Okay, because we work directly with clients. So it's difficult to try and forecast what those opportunities are going to look like in maybe 4, 5, 6 months.
Cool, thank you. A question.
Sorry, to add to that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Sorry.
It's all right, don't worry.
Attending events like these, any other events that you can attend that you may see on LinkedIn, whether it's related to Manchester Codes or not, jump on them. Connect with the likes of me on LinkedIn, because it may well be that I'm posting roles, or in fact Dan Doherty is my colleague in this space. He may well be recruiting particular opportunities. So it's hard work, it's tiring. I get your frustrations completely, but just build up your network as much as you can.
Really great advice there, thank you.
Any ex-boot campers, Alice, I don't know if there's GDPR constraints here, but connecting with your current cohorts, with previous
100%.
cohorts.
Yeah, building up that network. We always say this, we actually have a document if anybody would like it. We sometimes share it, but then we have to be careful. Which has everyone's email address and LinkedIn and profile stuff on, that they've given us consent to share. So if anybody ever wants that because they want to build up their network, let me know. We also have a couple of lunch and learns on LinkedIn and building your network. Okay. So also go back and watch those if you want some.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile as well, even if you can't share personal details, which is understandable from a GDPR perspective. If you've maybe got a list of, where your graduates have actually secured roles, there's a list of companies there that you can go and research and connect with their employees. So that's another sort of way you can keep your eye on the market.
Great, thanks, Kerry. Maggie has asked, whereabouts in the UK is Cognizant based? So we are a Manchester Codes, but we are a national organisation now, since everything has been COVID.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the perks that's come off the back of a really rubbish situation, and that is, companies and clients alike are realizing that actually people can work remotely and they can be trusted. So the model that we're working to at the moment is very much hybrid. Weaved into all of our job descriptions and contracts, we do say that we need our people to be geographically mobile. So as much as you may have a home-based location, to answer your question, Maggie, we're building out a presence in Leeds, which is probably the closest to Manchester. We've also got a presence in London. We've got clients scattered all over the UK, including Glasgow, for example. But it's just being flexible to travel if we need you to. It may be that for your first few months, you're working completely remote, but it may be that there are a couple of team events in a base office. So for you, Maggie, that would probably be Leeds, in which case we would need you to go in. Or alternatively, you may be placed onto a new project which requires you to go to the client's base location maybe once, twice, 3 times a week. So it really does vary.
Great, thank you. I have another question through from Anna, but she's just messaged me this on Slack. So if you could just describe the average day of a Cognizant consultant, because I imagine they're very varied. But
I'm not a consultant.
Yeah, no.
It does depend. I mean, I couldn't give you an actual answer because I joke, but I'm not a consultant. But it could be that you're working on an RFP, so for some potential work that's coming through. It could mean that you're helping the project manager to look at spreadsheets, budgets, etc. Are we under? Are we over? It could be that you're helping the Scrum Master with their stand-ups in the morning, so you're responsible for making sure that every party within that particular project is on time with what their deliverables are. It could be that you're working with a client to understand their requirements if there's been a change. It could be understanding whether or not they're happy with what we're providing so far. It could be some internal training that you get put on. Literally, no day is the same, especially in consultancy.
Great, thank you.
But it also depends on what type of role in consultancy as well. It could be that you're a business analyst. It could be that you're looking at change management, for example. So it really does vary. I feel like that was a bit of a wishy-washy answer.
No, I think it's the same answer you get for these sort of roles, really.
Yeah.
I guess the answer is varied and different. Maggie has just asked Kerry if you could share your surname and to send on LinkedIn. I will send Kerry's LinkedIn details over when I resend on Slack. Yeah, of course. I think that's all the questions we've got. I don't know if anybody wants to send any last minute ones in, but that was honestly so informative and insightful, Kerry. I really appreciate it. No, it was really good. I'm sure
just one thing one thing to be mindful of, and this is what I'm seeing a lot at the moment, is LinkedIn is a wonderful tool for searching for jobs and connecting with people, building your network. But someone said to me the other day, Kerry, I'm applying to 50 plus roles a day and I'm not getting anywhere. And I said, well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Okay, because this scattergunner, it's so easy to apply for roles on LinkedIn. They've got that quick apply. So, it doesn't take any time at all. But you need to be fussy with what type of roles you're applying for. You need to actually read the job descriptions as well. I know sometimes businesses out there will throw a job description out there and they're looking for a unicorn and they're expecting graduates and junior laterals to have a long list of skills, which is just completely impractical. But if there is quite a unique, specific skill set that they're looking for, so for example, if I'm looking for Java and it's a must, if you haven't used Java, don't apply to the role, because that is a must requirement for us, and I'll just have to reject you, unfortunately. But equally, it's telling me that if you're applying to 50 plus roles a day, you're not tweaking your CV in line with what the job description is asking for. And there can be some quite simple but effective ways that you can tweak it. It could be you're reviewing a job description and they keep using certain terminology or certain keywords. Jump on your CV and swap words out so that it matches with the job description, even if it's adjectives, for example. I'm not even talking about skill sets now, even just adjectives, and put them in bold maybe, so that when a recruiter is looking at your CV, you've influenced them. You're directing them to where you want them to look, because it's quicker for me to look at what's wrong with a CV than what's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's aligning yourself, isn't it, with that role and the opportunity, and showing what you can add to that team.
Yeah. So, be selective with the role types that you're applying for. You can afford to be fussy. If you're unsure about a role, then just reach out to the recruiter or reach out to people on LinkedIn. But do just be mindful that even just quick wins, if you're in the process of learning a particular skill set, put it on your CV. If you're learning Java, but you're not as competent as maybe you think you are, put on your CV that I'm currently learning X, Y, and Z. Don't list it as a skill, because that's maybe a little bit deceptive, or you're setting yourself up for a fall. If someone asks you about that particular skill, you may not feel confident enough at that point to talk about it. But if there's stuff coming up in the pipeline for you, even if it's, I want to do a particular accreditation in a month's time, I've enrolled, put it on your CV. Just make sure that you see it through. Because people will ask, oh, how are you getting on with this accreditation? I see you started it last month. But it's just additional content that you can add to your CV.
Definitely. Another string to your bow.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Great, cool. That was amazing. Thanks so much, Kerry. So what I'll do, I'll repost this into our Slack group. I'll reshare your LinkedIn. But no, you've been really, really helpful. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today.
If there's any other questions, just hit me up on LinkedIn. There's no such thing as a stupid question, only stupid answers. So wish me luck.
No. No, really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.